All right, welcome back into the Buddy Dill Show. It is December the 7th, and it is a Thursday. On Monday, the Heisman Trophy candidates were announced during Monday Night Football. 3 of the 4 are the ones you really expected. There were 4, and the fourth one was a little unexpected, but not that surprising. In alphabetical order, though, you have LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels, Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., who was this a little bit of a surprise, Oregon quarterback Bo Nix, and Washington quarterback Michael Penix Jr. Just run you through some stats right there for all of these guys. Jaden Daniels he was 72% completion percentage. He threw for 3,812 yards, 40 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. He also ran for over 1,100 yards. He ran for 1,134 yards and 10 touchdowns on the ground. He's looking to be the first LSU player since Joe Burrow in 2019 to win the Heisman. Those would be the only 2 players from LSU, the only 2 quarterbacks from LSU to win the Heisman. From Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr., he had 67 catches for 1,211 yards, 14 touchdowns, and he also added a rushing touchdown. No Ohio State quarterback has won since Troy Smith back in 2006. For Oregon, Bo Nix, he led the country with 77% completion percentage, threw for 4,145 yards, 40 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. He also added 228 yards on the ground and 6 touchdowns. He would be the first Oregon player since Marcus Mariota in 2014 to win the award. And then Michael Penix Jr., he threw for 66% completion percentage, led the country with 4,218 yards passing, 33 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. No Washington player has ever won the Heisman. Jake Browning was the closest back in 2016 when he came in 6th place. After Jake Browning had a really good night on Monday night. So maybe that's just coincidence. Maybe it was something more. I don't know. According to BetMGM, the Heisman odds have Bo Nix at minus 185, so he is the favorite to win. I don't quite get this. I thought Jaden Daniels should be the favorite, but we will see whenever they vote in New York. Jaden Daniels is in second at plus 140. Then Michael Penix Jr. at plus 1,600. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. is actually tied with Georgia's quarterback Carson Beck and Alabama's quarterback Jalen Milroe at plus 15,000, even though Marvin Harrison Jr. was the only one of those 3 to get invited to New York. More than likely, none of them are going to win. Michael Penix probably isn't going to win. This is going to be between Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. In my opinion, I think Jaden Daniels should win it. I know that the award has changed. It is going to really the best player on the best team, not necessarily the best player or the most valuable player in the country. If you look at the best player and the most valuable player for their team in the entire country, it's really hard to argue that it's not Jaden Daniels. Like I said, he hasn't thrown for quite as many yards as Bo Nix. He's only 300 yards short of Bo Nix, thrown for the same amount of touchdowns, though. But he ran for 900 more yards than Bo Nix, and he ran for 10 touchdowns. He was unstoppable. I got to watch him in person in the Ole Miss game. We couldn't do anything about him. We just had to score. Ole Miss just had to score more than LSU did. It wasn't like Ole Miss was going to stop Jaden Daniels. He did whatever he wanted to. He looked like the best player in the country. And I've seen Bo Nix play before, too, when he was at Auburn, and I know he's gotten a lot better. But I just don't think that – 77% completion percentage is really good. Don't get me wrong. He's had a great year. But Jaden Daniels should not be punished for losing 3 games because their defense couldn't stop anybody. That wasn't his fault. And that's the way that I feel like the Heisman voters are going to look. I don't understand why it's gone to this. It used to be the best player. It's not anymore. It's just the best player on the best team. I don't know if this is from the playoff being like this. And obviously, if you're the best player on the best team, then you're really good because you've led your team to a chance to play for a championship or play for a conference championship or anything like that. But Jaden Daniels has had a great year, and I think he should be the winner. This will be the let's see, it would be the 50th straight year, 51st straight year, I believe, without a repeat Heisman winner. Caleb Williams won in 2022, did not win this year. Obviously, he's not going to be even in New York. He's not going to have a chance to win. The only repeat winner was Archie Griffin, who was a running back for Ohio State back in 1974 and 75. Every year, some young kid wins the Heisman, and you're like, oh, well, he's going to win it again next year. And he always struggles or falls off, or just, I don't think the Heisman voters are going to let it happen either. But, so that's going to be your Heisman candidates. I believe that voting will take place not this Saturday, but the next Saturday in New York City. So that should be interesting. It's going to come down to either Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix, in my opinion. Eli Drinkwitz was named SEC Coach of the Year for Missouri. He led the Tigers to a 10-2 record and a New Year's Six Bowl. That is their first from both of these since 2014. They will face Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. This was a question mark who was going to win this award, but I mean, Eli Drinkwitz had a great year. Really not a whole lot of expectations for Missouri, but they definitely exceeded those. One of the highlights of the year came from when they beat Kansas State on a 61-yard field goal. That really got the Tigers rolling, and they haven't looked back. However, this is the only thing I got to say about Nick Saban. And the only reason I bring him up is because it's unfortunate for him for personal awards, because he's never going to win personal awards in years like this, because it's just expected for him to compete for national championships every year. And I'm not an Alabama fan by any means, but I respect greatness, and Nick Saban is absolutely, it's great. I think, and this might be a little controversial possibly, but I think that his coaching job this year has been the best coaching job that he's ever had in his entire career. And he's won 7 national championships, 6 with Alabama, 1 with LSU. He's 72 years old, so he's running out of time, honestly, when it comes to coaching. But everybody wonders, is he going to let up? Does he let up? Is the game going to pass him by? And every year he just keeps proving that no, he's just stays ahead of the game. The way that he handled the Jalen Milroe situation early in the year, after a loss to Texas, didn't play great, benches Milroe. That very rarely happens. Goes through a pretty rough game at South Florida, where they escaped South Florida, which was just not expected at all. Goes back with Milroe. Him and Tommy Rees must have sat down, their offensive coordinator, and really figured out a way to utilize Milroe. And ever since then, they've looked like one of, if not the best team in the country. It's been amazing the way that they've been able to turn around. Everybody wrote them off. They got beat by Texas one time at home. And I understand why, because that was very unexpected. You don't lose. Alabama doesn't lose at home very often, especially to non-conference teams. That almost never happens. And then they just come back and win, 11 in a row? It's been really impressive with the way that he's handled this. I just think that this is probably the best season of coaching that Nick Saban's ever had. And that is, like I said, saying a lot, because he's had 7 national championships already, going for number 8 this year. Whether you like him or not, he's getting older. He's not going to be around for much longer, so we should respect and enjoy him while he's here. Update on the transfer portal. So as of right now, there are 1,173 players in the portal. Only 20 of them have committed. So it's not like there's tons of players that are still there. More will enter. I'm sure these numbers are according to On3 Sports. I'm going to go through a little list of the top 10 players in the portal according to On3. You have Walter Nolan, who is a defensive lineman from Texas A&M. He is not committed nowhere. None of these players in the top 10 are actually committed to anywhere. Number 2 is Cam Ward, the quarterback from Washington State, like we mentioned the other day. Dante Moore is number 3. That's also another quarterback we mentioned from UCLA. Trey Moore is an edge rusher from University of Tennessee, San Antonio, so UTSA. Will Howard, number 5, quarterback from K-State. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback from Oklahoma, is number 6. Rocket Sanders, running back from Arkansas. He'll be a great get for whoever can pick him up. Marcus Carroll, another great get, running back from Georgia State. He had a great year this year. Monroe Mills, one of the best offensive tackles in the portal, actually the best offensive tackle in the portal according to On3. He is from Texas Tech. And then Aiden Childs, a quarterback from Oregon State, who is actually DJ Uiagalelei's backup. Some other notable guys in the portal, like I said, Riley Leonard the other day, quarterback from Duke. He is uncommitted. The highest rated transfer portal player who has committed is Brock Vandegrift, who is the backup for Carson Beck this year. So quarterback from Georgia. He is now going to Kentucky. It looks like he's going to try to go in after Devin Leary and keep Kentucky rolling because they had a pretty good year this year. So looks like he's going to go to Kentucky. Kyle McCord is sitting at 16. He's the quarterback from Ohio State. And then DJ Uiagalelei, who's the 24th ranked player in the portal. He is a transfer quarterback from Oregon State. On3 predicts 100% prediction that he is going to end up at Louisville. Obviously, he has not committed yet, but On3 is pretty much saying that that's going to be a lock, and he's going to end up at Louisville. Now, I just don't quite understand how this portal situation is going to get any better. Apparently, this past week, somebody in Congress has started a bill where schools will be able to pay NIL money directly to players. So it's not going to be through collectives anymore, is what the bill, I guess, would eventually make it. It would be through the school. So then the pay-for-play thing, it already basically is. It already was in the past, but it was just illegal. They still did it. Obviously, everybody did. But now it's about to be just a straight out, the schools are paying the players, and that's going to cause all kinds of issues. Are players now considered employees? Are they considered like on a professional team? Will they have free agencies? Will they sign contracts to teams? Will those NIL deals that they make, will they keep them places? Will that lower the transfer portal numbers? Will that do all kinds of different things? I just don't think that anybody has thought through what the whole deal is. It's like they just were like, well, the players need to get paid because they're going to complain about it. They've been complaining about it for forever, so let's just pay them some money. How are we going to do that? I don't know. We'll figure it out. And nobody's figured it out. They just keep throwing ideas at the board and hoping one sticks. And it just doesn't seem like anybody is using their heads when it comes to this. It's gotten wild with NIL, the transfer portal. You have just so many different issues. And then you throw in the fact that players are still playing for 6-7 years, some even playing for 8 years. I have a friend that's my age, and I've been out of school for 3 years, and he's played his final year this year. I mean, kudos to him. Good for him. I'm happy for all these guys to get to play for so long, but that also just screws up recruiting. Recruiting has been set back so long, and a lot of that's because of COVID. But also the way that players are able to just sit out games now. The rule that they changed a couple years ago when they allowed players to play in 4 games and still retain eligibility for that entire year. Where in the past, if you played more than like a quarter or two, then it was really hard to get a red shirt. And you almost had to be hurt to do that. So now you can play 4 games and still have a red shirt. So that you're basically, you could play a third of the year and still be able to, that year doesn't count. It's somebody has to really think about everything and go in and change this. I don't see it happening anytime soon just because I think that everybody's so worried about different things, such as whether Florida State should be in the playoff or not. That's a short-term problem, and that will be fixed next year with the 12-team playoff. the NIL and the transfer portal, this is a real deal problem for college football. If people who grew up and have watched college football the way that they have for so long, love this sport and want it to continue being that way, something has to change quickly, or next thing you know, it's going to be a lesser version of pro football. Just because the players aren't quite as talented as the guys in the NFL. Nothing against them, but that's just what it's going to be. It's going to be pro football that's played on a worse scale. And it's going to get worse and worse. And I don't see a fix to this solution to this problem right now. And hopefully something gets better. But we will see. Hopefully somebody with a smart brain figures it out and really helps these kids, because obviously they deserve to get paid because they bring in so much money for the schools. It's not like they can go and work jobs during the year because they're so busy. I don't have a problem with them getting paid, but they need to figure out a better way to do it because this is getting wild. Former Texas A&M receiver Evan Stewart the other day claimed that the NIL deal that he signed and took to go to A&M 2 years ago, they didn't have any of the money. They didn't give him any money. So that happens. It's going to continue to happen. And it's going to be whoever has the most money is going to get the best players. And it's going to be a mess. But other than that, that kind of covers it today. Sorry for ranting about that, but that was just, they need to figure it out. We will see you back sometime next week to cover what is going on since today. Whether some more transfer portals names get committed somewhere, whether more enter. I'm sure there'll be plenty of stuff to talk about when it comes to the portal and also the bowl games who are going to be starting up next week. Until then, y'all have a great weekend, and we will see y'all next time.